Welcome back, everybody, to ESA Winter 21. We are raising money for Alzheimer Funding. Links to donate can be found in the stream below, or you can type !donate in the chat. We would like to thank Neo2 The Complete Edition, Twitch, and ViewSonic for sponsoring this event. And now, it's time for Inception, running Shadow of the Colossus. Take it away, buddy.
Hey guys, I'm Inception, but you can just call me Sean if you want. And I will be running Shadow of the Colossus Any Person for you tonight with Stocky and Tic Tac.
Hello, my name's Stocky.
And I'm Tic Tac.
Alright, and then I guess we can just jumping. So time starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so Shadow of the Colossus is a very popular game. Not many people play, unfortunately, but it's basically about killing 16 big colossi, or basically a very big boss rush. First colossi over here, which we've affectionately named Valus, we'll be getting towards him. And, yeah.
In a way, this will be a sort of introductory Colossus that usually serves as the kind of tutorial for the game. You learn the basic techniques, like stabbing, finding the weak points that you have to stab to kill the colossi. And yeah, the colossi fights are usually more like puzzles, but since we're speedrunning, this will look quite a bit differently than you would imagine in a casual playthrough. So, as we will come up to the fight, I will explain it a bit in more detail, but first of all, a little parkour section.
Yeah, there's a small little movement optimization. We can use the geometry of the wall to launch us up a tiny bit, and using Wanda's magnificent magnet hands, which we will be seeing a lot of, we can grab onto this little ledge and also skip a tiny bit and just go up to the colossi and start the fight.
Yep. So if you remember the first fight from your casual playthroughs, you will know that basically the main way of doing this in a casual way is to climb up the back after hitting the leg. And what Sean will be doing instead is, after hitting the leg, there will be a cutscene in which you can actually move. And even though it's a bit difficult to navigate, if Sean manages to do the skip, he will grab right onto the head.
It's one of the first barriers of entry into the game, but it's relatively it doesn't punish much. There is a lot to grab onto. Sean did it pretty well, and then just 3 stabs and we'll be on to the next colossi.
Yep, there we go.
Yeah, not the best Valus, but that was okay.
It was definitely very good. Like, it can be quite tricky to learn the skip just because of the way the camera is angled. And yeah, the first Colossus done. Okay, how about you talk a little bit about the next one coming up?
Yeah, so the next one coming up, Quadratus. It's the horse minotaur bull thing right over at the other side of the castle. We will be doing a skip in which the trigger for the cutscene extends much higher up than the ground that you would usually trigger it to, and with the remake of the game, they added a lot of extra collisions and rocks and faces, which we've managed to find small little exploits with. So we will be seemingly jumping off at the wrong moment, but we'll be able to trigger the cutscene and fall straight on top of the colossi. And then,
as opposed to the usual way where you would have to hit the legs with a bow, this saves quite a bit of time. And it's actually fairly simple to do if you want to try it out in your own playthroughs. And yeah, as Soki already mentioned, this game speedrun is actually very similar to the PS2 and PS3 versions of the games, but due to certain design choices, it actually adds to the speedrun with a few more examples we will get into later.
Definitely. While we are in this little downtime, one of the more important things that you won't notice as much is there's a surprising amount of technique behind stabbing. in this game. It's not as simple as you would do casually of just simply just pressing the attack button and then pressing it again to cancel it. There's still quite a bit of technique behind it. And here Sean's just getting onto the scenery that'll trigger the cutscene, skips it, and now just quad appears. We jump on, and now we are onto the head and onto the first sigil.
Yeah, what Sean will try and do here is one of the stabbing technique mentioned, which is a plant. Usually, if you try to stab the Colossus and the Colossus is shaking, Wander would get flung around quite a bit, but as Sean demonstrates here, with a specific positioning and way of grabbing, Wander just didn't shake at all, and that's actually quite the theme in a lot of the battles, which can save a lot of time if you know what you're doing. And opposed to that, on the back sigil, you actually want to be shaken out of the stab to reset them quicker, to do cycle stabs. And that's another technique to accelerate the stabbing instead of stabilizing it, and that's called down. Very good job.
Yeah. Now the next Colossi is the most well known and also lives in infamy for people who have tried to casually 100% the game, as the time attack of this Colossi is notoriously hard. And in speedrunning, especially in hard, and in speedrunning, it's not that much easier. It still is one of the harder ones.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the harder ones, but especially with the time constraints we set upon ourselves. Like, for example, this one, Sean will try to defeat the Colossus in just about 1.5 minutes if it was an IL. So that obviously involves quite a few things, like physics abuse, which is quite a theme for many of the Colossi, where we basically try and use the Colossus momentum for our advantage. And even though sometimes it might even look like a glitch, it's actually just more of an exploit of intended mechanics.
Most of the speedrunning techniques behind the game, not many of them are actual glitches. It's just this game has its own set rules, but they're very lax about it. So, for example, the cutscene, it technically isn't a glitch. It's just that the developers didn't think anyone would try to stand on that little specific spot, which just about gets which is the trigger for the cutscene just about covers. So most of the tricks and skips are more exploiting the physics, exploiting the Colossi's AI and the terrain around us. But there are a couple glitches that we will see.
Yeah, 2 to be exact, which you would actually call a glitch, but we will get into detail more about that later. And yeah, coming up to Gaius' Arena. Some of you guys might actually know what the skip's idea is, because one of the achievements for the game to get the Platinum Trophy eventually is actually to do some sort of speedrun skip. Usually, when you fight this Colossus, you would make him hit the middle platform thingy, like to basically destroy the little thing around Gaius' arm to be able to climb up there. But the idea here is to skip that entirely and, like I said, use a very specific way of abusing the physics, which I guess I will let Sean just do it because it speaks for itself. Quite the amazing technique when it works.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, it's a technique when you see the Colossus, you actually kind of want to do it. Like, just by seeing the Colossus, you feel like you can do the skip.
Yeah, but doing it consistently is very precise, so that's actually why in GDQ, for example, most of the runs were boss rushes instead. The ILs are done, just because you can reset position and show off all the tricks, but as of recently, runners have been very, very comfortable and consistent with any percent as well, and it's actually more suited for marathons since it's less hectic.
So the trick will be coming up now. We will also explain the arrow shots after Sean hits this.
All right.
Perfect.
Great job. Sean.
So while we were waiting for Gaius to swing his sword, he saw Sean shoot his stomach. And while you're only meant to be able to deal proper damage with your sword, if you shoot sigils, you can deal a noticeable amount of damage. We wanted to get the aggro of Gaius while we were waiting there, and might as well deal enough damage to do one stab less, which saves a tiny bit amount of time. But it's one of smaller optimizations.
Yep. And another thing again, you could see on the first sigil, it was a very specific plant, and on the second one, the cycle stabs, again the same kind of theme around optimizing the stabbing, which is very important for many of the fights, especially here since certain animations allow you to move around the Colossus more quickly. And that was basically a perfect Gaius.
Yeah.
Yep, and if you never played the game, you saw that basically every time you defeat a Colossus, you get sent back to like the temple, which is like really central in the game. Like you always get back to that temple.
Yeah, it's meant to be fragments of a distant god. So every single time you defeat it, you get teleported back, and then from this central point, you are meant to use the sword to find the next Colossi. And this next one will be the first more of a extreme abuse of the physics engine. If Sean goes for the leg launch.
No, I won't.
You won't?
Definitely.
That's more of a boss rush strategy because it's quite risky. But yeah.
You
I
do
think-
have the possibility to launch yourself up with the animations.
Yeah, if you ever played the game, that one is kind of like a horse thing, and you have to bait it into like you come close to some tunnels, and then you can climb onto the Colossus. But it's like really slow and depends on AI, so we don't do that.
Yep, instead Sean will just jump onto very specific points on the Colossus and manage to just climb up it like it's supposed to be that way. But it's actually very precise and can be quite troubling to learn, especially at first.
Thank you, Agro.
Just the usual aggro. Aggro is very scared of grass and rocks, especially when you can't quite even see them.
Tiger is absolutely terrified of small little patches of grass that usually wouldn't be distinguishable.
Yeah, to go more in detail, basically, first of all, Sean will try to jump onto a part of the lag where you can just buff grab, and then with the help of an animation, he will get a little boost to get up the lag like that, and after grabbing there, you can just jump over and already be on the Colossus. Looks simple, but can be quite challenging to learn. Very good.
It also skips several minutes of very slowly navigating Phaedra's AI to where you want him to be, which can be very long, very annoying. So this does skip a lot of time.
Yep, and another plan to make the whole thing just a slight easier.
I might get pushed out of it.
Yeah, that can happen because of certain animations on some Colossi, but actually getting this plant is fairly generous. Most of the
yeah.
head can be used.
I was.
Oh, there we go.
That should be okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Nico, I think we have some time for some donations.
No problem. Let me just pull up the donation page. All right, so we've got $20.69 from FoxyZilla that says, get the Avion jump stab or live forever in shame. Love Foxy. And that bid went towards Final Fantasy VII Remake, any percent for Take the Stairs. We've also got $25 from Worm. No comments, but thank you so much for that lovely donation as well. We've also got $7.20 from Azama, saying a colossal thanks to everyone running and watching. Go Great Crab, the Team ICO friends are all with you on this one. And we've also got $5 from Usurpering, which says, I heard that the French word for the number 80 is basically 420s. I couldn't make up a more interesting donation message. Crab, 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 crab.
Yeah, a lot of people of the community supporting, which is very amazing.
Yeah. A lot of runners in those donations. That's super sweet.
Yeah. Sean, will you go for the jump stab?
I shouldn't.
Come on, try it once. If it fails, it fails.
Okay, yeah, I will try just for
just to give a little
Foxy.
just a little context on that, because I made him do it, so I have to explain. the coming up is Avion the Flying Colossus, and the usual speedrun way, besides being fancy about the way you go about stabbing and letting go and moving around the Colossus, which can actually already lead to quite a few unfortunate fails and falling off. It's quite tricky. Like, if you think during the casual playthrough, well, that wasn't that bad. Try to fall from one wing directly to the other while maintaining speed. And the jump stab strategy specifically is actually an individual level strat that only very few people of the community can actually do properly. And yeah, Fox always likes to brag a little bit about doing it in a marathon. And Sean is one of the few people that can actually do it on occasion.
Yeah, on occasion being the emphasis.
Yeah, I'll put it this way. It's very expected to fail, but if Sean manages to do it, it's very amazing to look at. So I guess Foxy just wanted you guys to see the limit of what is possible with amazing skill. If it fails, Sean will just reset the whole animation and go back to the usual strats. But yeah, just setting the expectations low, so if it works, you know.
Always best to have a good foundation.
Yeah,
So-
like if you would have asked anyone about this strat just like a year ago before Sean was in the community, most people would have called you insane for doing it in a full run, especially on a marathon run, so let's do it.
Yep.
So now we're going to shoot over towards Aegon that's just perched, staring menacingly. We are going to taunt him with a couple arrows. He's going to swoop down, and then during his animation, in which he's flapping, you can let go and try to jump stab one of his sigils, which we'll see hopefully.
Ah, too bad.
Ah, so close.
Oh wow. Okay.
Oh,
Oh,
you saved it.
that
Let's
works.
take that.
That works. That works. That was intended.
Let's just pretend that was the way we wanted to do this, because this can happen sometimes where you just land on the tail. We'll make the transition on the rest of it a bit more difficult.
Yeah, I will play the rest really safe.
But yeah, if any of you guys want to see the absolute insanity what was this strat attempted, just go to the IL section of the SOTC leaderboard of the 2018 version. The strategies used were absolutely amazing.
Every single IL is completely different to how you would normally go about it.
Yeah, since it takes so many risks. Okay, Sean taking it safely because the animations can be quite rude.
Yeah. because
Usually, yeah.
basically, if you don't like do it the normal way, the like avian speed and animations are just too unpredictable.
Yep, but very solid, Sean. Great recovery.
Very, very good. Usually during the barrel roll animation, you would let go, and you can land back onto the other side of the wing.
Yeah.
But as you went for the jump stab, which props, and at least didn't fall back into the water.
Yeah.
It wasn't luck at all.
All skill. If you have time
I mean,
for
just
more
going
day.
for it is great courage. And it went well for what it was.
And yeah, we have some more time for donations if you have some, Nico.
No problem. Just as a FYI, we are about just under $250 before we hit that 20k mark. Can we hit 20k by the end of this run? That is the question. I'll do a little bit of insight about the charity that we are donating for, which is Alzheimerfonden. Alzheimerfonden's aim and purpose is to increase fundraising to the benefit of scientific research in order to find a cure for Alzheimer's disease. Yearly, Alzheimerfonden's Science Council and Board of Directors grant scientists and projects around 30 million SEK. Alzheimerfonden enables training for caregivers on the subject of dementia and organizes projects, camps, and events for youngsters affected in different ways due to parents or other relatives diagnosed with Alzheimer's.
You can continue. There's some time
No
between.
problem. We just had a donation come in, actually, coming in from Sky D River for $25. And the comment says, this more entertaining than 100 Super Bowls. Great runners for a great cause. Hashtag MGSR.
Watching Sean play this game is always a treat for sure.
That's really sweet.
Yeah, the most amazing player this game has to offer by far. Especially since he only started playing just about a year ago. Like, surpassed everyone like it's nothing. And
Coming up, we will be seeing the first actual glitch of the run. Tic Tac, if you have more insight on it, because I'm actually not sure how it works.
my insight on
Exactly.
it is basically cutscenes are weird in this game, and if you skip them in specific points, weird things can happen. Nobody knows why it works, nobody knows how it works, but some Japanese people that are very good about glitch hunting found a way to actually just skip a cutscene at a very specific point, and Wander just lands on Barber's face. Don't ask how it works, but it works. If you skip like just a bit earlier or later than the designated point, it can lead to Wander falling into different directions. We have a pretty cool bag for that, but we'll see how Sean handles this.
For some reason, the Barber cutscene, depending on when you skip it, you can just spawn in the air, and if you do it too early, I believe you can spawn in the air but further away from Barber. If you do it too late, you'll just be on the floor. But hopefully, we should spawn in the air right in front of Barber, and just grab one and continue with our day.
Yeah, it's actually one strat that, if you watched like other runs of this game, in the boss rush it doesn't work because Wander can't move or take any commands during the start of the fight. And the one run by Elias that was done at the ESA before actually didn't have that strat yet, so that's quite the world premiere in like the bigger speedrun events.
Yeah, let's try not to miss that.
Yeah, I know, I'm just hyping it up way more than I should, am I not?
Okay.
That was
Perfect, fine.
GG.
Very nice. As
So,
you can see,
and
we
as you-
just appeared.
Yeah, we just appeared and are up there already. And that's like the first of two real glitches in this run. And this Colossus actually has two sigils, one on the head and one at the back. Sean will probably try to use weapon switches on the back. The reason he does that is because Wander actually charges the staff faster if he equips hand, and that's especially beneficial on the back sigils, because you can just re-grab and switch to the weapon and stab in a cycle kind of way, and it's done. GG.
An interesting thing about the Barber Cutscene skip is that it doesn't actually save any time compared to RTA. But in Shadow of the Colossus, we luckily we do have timers on each of our save files, so we use IGT. Even if it isn't an exact conversion, for some reason IGT I believe is a bit slower than real time, like a 90%. Conversion.
It's exactly 10% slower than real time. Ask Bluepoint what they did with that, but it's consistent. And especially since SSDs, PS Pros, PS5s now are around and would cause quite the difference in time. With Sean, for example, using a PS Pro and an SSD, in-game time is just the most objective and fair way to measure it. And yeah, the Barber cutscene skip usually would be about the same, but obviously saves a lot of time since the cutscene isn't counted.
Yeah. Now we've got a long ride towards Hydrus.
Yeah, Hydrus. I think a lot of people remember that one if you played the game. It's the electric fish. And I know that when I played the game on PS2 for the first time, I was like actually scared of that one. Because
Yep.
like it just looks so mean.
Big disclaimer, if any one of you has like the fear of deep waters, maybe you should skip out on the next fight. It's like...
Yeah, just close your eyes once
So-
once we get there.
So Hydrus is definitely the first Colossi where dying casually can happen quite a bit. Apart from maybe getting hit by Gaius' sword, but usually you could dodge that. But the electric fins do a surprising amount of damage, especially in hard mode.
Yeah, and this is actually one of the very big run killers. I've been doing a lot of any percent runs recently, and 7 out of 10 of my runs messed up at this point. Why is that the case? If you remember the casual way of doing doing Hydrus, you basically wait for Hydrus to swim up to the water and grab the tail. We as speedrunners obviously found a way to be a bit faster, which involves triggering Hydrus' AI at a specific point with a specific timing with a jump step into the water, which makes Hydrus very confused and just swim up directly, and you can climb onto the head directly. It's already pretty difficult and precise in ILs, in the boss rush, for example. But here in any percent, since it varies very exactly you like fall to at the start, the setup is very precise and kinda inconsistent at the same time. What Sean will try and do is jump to a specific place, wait out till it just does a certain amount of like swimming, and then swim for exactly 10 swims in a specific direction, and that hopefully will do it.
Also, usually in the ILs we have a great reference because there is a timer and it always starts the exact same. But in this case, we actually don't have any timer. We are always placed into different places, so we have to use a bit more of a freeform setup. And actually, the Japanese runners have a completely different way of have a different way of setting themselves up. We in any percent usually count swim animations.
Let's count in French. Summon the power. Okay. Alright. I hope it's good.
Looking good. And perfect.
Amazing shot. This is already better than any of my runs ever were.
Alright, nice.
Big box.
Very, very good at Hydrus. Hydra's kind of gives us like a little head tilt, and once you see that a little head tilt after you get on top of him, you know that it's going all pretty well. It's very, very precise, and one thing about the speedrun that I personally like a lot is that a lot of these setups aren't technically standard. Different people have different ways of performing them. It's all generally the same, but for example, Gaius before or Hydra's right here, different people do different setups for each trick, giving our own personal flair.
Yep, it's about what is comfortable for the specific runner, and Sean here just shows his absolute consistency in all of that, hitting all the difficult tricks first try. Like, I'm actually amazed.
Yeah, I hope it will continue like that.
Yeah, by the way, each of the Colossi, without even joking, has a legitimate potential to be a run killer. Because small mistakes can already lead to minutes time loss, and besides that little thing on Avion where Sean saved it as best as he could, considering he went for a risky strat, this run has been perfect so far.
Yeah, it is definitely a very unforgiving speedrun. While there is these nice rest periods of just riding aggro into the sunset between Colossi, the actual fights, it's very, very tense. You have a hour-long run where only really 20-25 minutes are actually deciding whether the run dies or not. But luckily, Chromo coming up is one of the most relaxed Colossi.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, it's one of those that actually, if people are starting out the game, they always like to start out with Kuromori, because the non-IL way is very simple to learn, and the stabbing techniques can be practiced, and it's very rewarding getting like those practiced. Yeah, while the IL way, full world record, actually is absolute insanity. Like, big shout out to Hammerclav, and if any of you guys have to watch it, one IL, watch 2 by Hammerclav. It's Basran and Kuromori.
Yeah.
Those two are absolutely insane.
Yeah. Also, a little fun fact about the game: swimming is very slow. Like, so slow that it's faster to go around with aggro through like some very specific path.
Unfortunately, we don't get to say hi to the fishies in this area.
Yep, a lot of little Easter eggs and cool things are skipped because we want to go fast.
Yeah, so if you played this game casually, you will know that usually you would knock Kuromori down, and then he would be face up. You would, oh my god, that hopper. He would be face up. You would take out one sigil, rinse, and repeat. We will be doing it all in one cycle, because speed running much faster and also pretty consistent and very easy.
Also, big shout out to Sean's amazing pathing and movement.
That hover was insane.
As good as a hover can get. So Kuro has a few little things about him. The speed at which he climbs a wall varies, and it's RNG dependent. But most of the strat is the same way. You hit the legs, and ideally try to land on Kuromori, or at least on the side where you can jump up quickly. And here we will see the best cycle stabbing has to offer, with just resetting the stabs instantly, going to a second sigil, and finishing with a jump stab.
Yeah. One thing that we haven't mentioned yet is, for some reason, jump stabs instantly finish fights, usually for dramatic effect, as this game is a cinematic masterpiece. In the final stab, you would get a slow motion effect, but for some reason they just didn't code that motion effect for jump stabs, so whenever possible, which it isn't possible for every single Colossi, but it is pretty common for the final stab, we will try to go for jump stab, just save a tiny bit of time.
Yep. One reason for that could be that the jump step damage is actually applied instantly. And the downside of the jump step, though, is that the animation for getting the sword back out is actually slower than doing usual stabs. But for some, like you saw on Hydrus, or as a finishing blow, that doesn't really matter. So there's a lot of interesting techniques possible.
Yeah. I think we have time for like 1 or 2 donos, Nico.
Absolutely. We do have a donation in from Captain Clucky with $15. The comment says, Shadow of the Colossus is one of my favorite games, so I thought, why not donate during the run? It is super cool to watch the runners speed through such a beautiful game. Thanks for supporting such a good cause, and that goes towards the Pokemon X any % trainer name of my dad. It's a fantastic name. So don't forget, there are plenty more bid incentives to look at. The most recent one you can donate toward is for the Judgment Run, and that is for the language choice, either between English and Japanese, which English is winning by $15 at the moment.
Nice.
We're getting now towards Bass. Yeah, sorry, you want to explain? Sure.
Yeah, the next Colossus Bassaran is like one of the biggest run killer in the run. Because like normally you have to again like bait him to step on geysers, and it's really tricky because if its AI doesn't want to, he just won't come over, and you'll spend 10 minutes just like swearing at him. So what we usually do is just like jump on its leg and jump on its head, but it's really easy to mess up.
Yeah, definitely one of the most precise physics abuses in the game. It basically uses a side jump at a very specific timing to transfer the momentum of the Colossus movement towards getting a sidewards boost. Let's see if Sean can perform it as consistently as he has been so far. As always, perfect. Yeah.
Luckily, we didn't have to show off what we would usually do in a lot of any percent Colossi, Bassaran, and one later on specifically. The fastest way to recover from messing up, it's just to jump off a cliff and just reset, because defeating them casually, well, through the intended methods, is so slow that it is a lot more worth it to kill Wanda and then restart, especially because all the time loading does not count for the IGT, which is what we want in the end. And very, very good Bassaran.
Yep, especially getting first try Bassaran is always a little extra tricky because the animations vary depending on the exact position, and the timing is also a little bit more tricky. Once you do the sad reset by death, the whole fight becomes more of an IL setup, which is easier to do. But here Sean just nailed it first try.
Yeah, most of the Shadow of the Colossus is a speedrun with nearly no RNG, but especially any percent is a lot of adapting to what you have. We know how the Colossi will react, but a lot of the tricks are very position dependent, and of course, unfortunately, we are not taskbots. We switch and change positions. We are not always in the optimal places. So while it isn't RNG and we can very easily predict how they will react, we do need to adapt ourselves to what is going on, which especially in stuff like Bassaran is very, very hard to do.
Yep, and I think I already mentioned the reason why any percent have been run less than boss rushes, because of the consistency factor. So actually also a brave choice to run any percent by Sean. since if you mess up, it can be quite tricky to recover. Sean hasn't messed up so far, so definitely living up to the hype.
And yeah, and we have a pretty long way to go on aggro, so if you have more donations to read, Nico, feel free.
Right, no new donations right now, but I can talk about the prizes that if you donate towards means that you can beat him with a chance of winning. For a minimum of $25, you could win a ViewSonic Elite monitor. And for a minimum of $35, you can win another ViewSonic monitor, obviously a higher spec, but in with a chance, in with a penny, in with a pound. Well, the minimum donations anyway. And we're also raising money for Alzheimer's Funding. Just a little bit more about them. So the goal of Alzheimer's Funding is to be an important research financer in this work. In the absence of effective medicines, it is important to research the best preventative measures for Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's is a progressive disease where dementia symptoms gradually worsen over several years. It is early stages, memory loss is mild, but with a late stage Alzheimer's, individuals lose the ability to carry on a conversation and respond to their environment. So guys, if you want to help against the battle of Alzheimer's, donate to a fantastic cause, donate in with a chance of winning some monitors as well, and donate towards the incentives and the bids.
Yeah, and donate to hear some more of Nico's amazing voice.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
you.
But we're now going up to Dirge, or as we affectionately call him, Dirgy Dirge. He is the sand snake hidden away. We will be performing another one cycle, just like with Kuromori. This one's a lot more precise, in which you are meant to shoot him in the eye, have him hit a wall, and then climb onto it, and then climb onto him to take care of one sigil, and then do that all again. But because of the damage of that one single arrow, we can very precisely stab to deal just enough damage. Now, playing casually, you would think that what the game checks for is that every single sigil has been defeated, but it only checks the max HP of the Colossi. So, in some cases, we can luckily simply just not deal with one of these sigils completely, and do this a lot faster.
Yep, and the difference is basically that usually after defeating one sigil, Dirge's animations would reset and you would have to do all of the shooting again. And by being very, very precise with these stabs, it's possible to avoid that by not killing the sigil by the pixel. And basically if you deal just a bit more, the sigil dies and you get the 2 cycle. If you deal a little less, then you don't get the 1 cycle by a pixel. So if Sean manages to do this,
Yeah, it should be fine.
Yeah, looks fine.
Yeah, okay.
Perfect.
Amazing.
That is very precise.
I almost messed it up, but
Yeah, I saw that
Saved.
you overstabbed one, but then
Yeah, a little
you
bit.
managed to bring it back.
It's definitely a very, very difficult trick to learn at first, just because of the precision required on the stabs.
It's also very annoying because he always survives that one tiny pixel sliver of HP, which you can technically deal before he goes down under. Because while during his animation of going back into the sand, you can slash the sigil, but personally, I've never managed to perform it. But
Yeah, it's definitely one of those backups that you always try to do, but it only works 1 in 100.
yeah, low strats, you don't really lose much. So the next Colossi, I believe, is Celosia,
yeah.
who is best boy. Bite me. He is one of the 2 tiny dog cat-like Colossi. This one is the one that is scared of fire, which is adorable. We will be doing a couple different tricks. In this case, the first one is kind of like with Quadratus at the beginning. We will be exploiting the terrain around us, in which if we jump off at a specific spot, instead of dropping all the way down and then having to climb back up, we can land directly onto the fighting area. Tic Tac, you want to explain the actual fight?
Yeah, casually, since the Colossus is scared of fire, usually you would get the torch, light the torch, and then slowly but surely move the Colossus towards the cliff. But we as speedrunners found a way to make this faster, since all the requirements to make the fall happen are that Wander is holding a burning torch and that Celosia is near the cliff. So we can reverse the whole process by lighting the torch, getting to the cliff directly, and then dropping the torch. Celosia is like, oh, there's no torch burning, I'm gonna run towards Wander. And just in the right moment, Sean will pick up the torch back again, and Celosia is at the edge, Wander is holding the torch, and that triggers the cutscene. And ideally, with the right animation, Wander then, due to getting hit, drops down a level and is able to finish the Colossus, hopefully with 2 jump steps, which is always very impressive to see.
One of the fun things that we obviously won't show off, but for swag strats, if you want to, the game doesn't actually check for height either. So another thing you can do is, instead of letting go of the torch and then pick it back up, you can just drop down, go underneath where Celosia usually would fall down, and then the game doesn't even check it. So Celosia just falls down on his own, and that's it.
Yeah, also very cool moment in routing where Wander just drops to the arena directly, which is also kind of precise and saves a bit of time.
And then there is a meme rock around them, which you can get kind of soft locked in.
Not quite soft lock, but you always lose a minute to that rock. At least. So here, Sean gets the torch. And a thing that actually a lot of casual players have trouble with is getting hit by Celosia, since a little stun lock can happen, but Sean is obviously very, very precise about doing this. So only getting hit when it's required. Perfect.
Also, Celosia doesn't really have a hitbox during the cutscene, so you can get launched all the way down, and on top of that, you can land where Celosia usually lands, which basically means that you will be inside of Celosia. But even then, because Celosia gets triggered by how close you are, even then you can still jump away and finish it, and that was a very, very good Celosia.
Yep, the 2 jump steps are always impressive to see. If the jump steps don't work, it's also possible to get a plant as a backup, but not required here.
Yeah, and that one is actually, like, when you do it casually, if you don't get, like, a random plant, that Colossus can be really, really tricky. Because, you get shaken a lot.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of casual players actually get the plant and then get confused about what is going on, and then they move out of the plant, and it was all for nothing.
I was very confused when I got it casually, but luckily I didn't move away from it, and it all worked pretty well. Because one thing we didn't explain is when you do get a plant, if you do move at any point, it does just cancel out. Okay. Nico, you have anything else to tell us with your lovely voice?
I think I can tell you a little bit more about Alzheimer's Fonden. Alzheimer's is the 6th leading cause of death in the United States. On average, a person with Alzheimer's lives 4 to 8 years after diagnosis, but can live as long as 20 years, depending on other factors. Alzheimer's has no cure, but treatments for symptoms are available, and research continues with Alzheimer's Fonden. Although current treatments cannot stop Alzheimer's from progressing, they can temporarily slow the worsening of dementia symptoms and improve quality of life for those with Alzheimer's and their caregivers. Again, the charity that we are donating for today is Alzheimer's Fonden. If you want to donate, please make sure that you do !donate in the chat, which will take you over to the donation page, for which you can also put your money towards incentive and bids.
Lovely.
Nice. Next one is Pelagia, which is like, I think, one of the most hated Colossus in the community.
Yep.
Because basically, when you do Pelagia casually, you have to get Pelagia to stand up to be able to stab Pelagia's belly, because normally its belly is underwater, and so when we do it in the speedrun, we try to do it in one cycle. But again, when you do one cycle, you have to be really precise with your stabs, and it's really, really easy to mess up. And sometimes, even if you do everything right, Pelagia will just say, yeah, no, I will give you a shake, and you miss it.
Unlike with Dirge, Pelagia isn't a question of that we have dealt enough damage to it that Pelagia simply dies, but there is a trigger for Pelagia that once you've dealt 2 full stabs of damage, it will go back underwater. So if we do 1 stab and then almost another stab, we just about have enough time to kill it. And also, usually sigils have very big hitboxes, much bigger than what they're apparent, but for some reason, Ueda hates us, and Pelagia's is the only one that is actually smaller than it, and it's very, very tight.
Yep, what Sean will also try to do is get a very, very specific setup to actually manage to cancel Pelagia's attack animation to be just a little bit quicker, and if that's messed up, sometimes Pelagia just turns away and says, not today, let's waste a minute, or 2. Especially in the hard runs, it's very heartbreaking and can lead to quite a few destroyed runs.
Yeah, and it's also one of the Colossus that can like crash your game completely.
Let's hope it doesn't happen here.
Yeah.
Yeah. This game does favor those who do perfect execution, and if you don't do everything perfect, it will remind you that you didn't, and it will waste a lot of time. And Pelagia's AI is definitely one of those.
So first part of the setup, just jumping onto Pelagia's face, that's already very tricky. Then if you get to the head very quickly and stab the teeth, which are actually there to control Pelagia, yep, I think Sean got it perfectly. You can get there very quickly and get the right setup to jump onto the face, roll to the side, and grab onto the sigil. Barely, but good enough.
Okay, that spot can be bad, but we'll see.
Let's hope.
All right. Nice.
Hey, that's
GG.
good. That's good. That's good.
I was actually very scared about that
It's
because
very scary.
usually I always take the time to get at the top of the sigil because the shakes are very, very sensitive and only a few spots work, but that worked out perfectly. And the second stab was actually a perfect 90% stab as well. If you understab, Pelagia has too much health. If you overstab, you trigger that little bump up animation too early and only can get 3 stabs in. So another perfectly executed Colossus. You can't really add much more to it. Sean is making it look very easy.
Yes.
One thing that we do have very taken for granted is how relatively easy the PS4 version is, because the original and especially the PS3 version are a lot more ruthless when it comes to a lot of these tricks, especially with the precision stabs. As in the PS4 one, we have the small, manageable stamina bar that also has a little 50% darker circle. Meanwhile, in the PS2 and PS3 one, we have the giant, overwhelming pink circle that has no indication of how much you are stabbing, apart from, eyeballing it, which makes a lot of the tricks much, much harder.
Yep, and the shaking in the PS3 version was also a lot more. But at the same time, we have to remind everyone that this game has been a lot more optimized than the original version as well, just due to the insane consistency that runners have recently showed, especially Sean. And all of the tricks shown here, usually it's not like that. There's definitely a mistake here, a little time loss there, which, yeah, basically to illustrate this, Sean is the first guy to get a sub 1 hour in-game time, and also the first one to get the sub 59 in-game time. The others still haven't gotten the sub 1, but he's at the sub 59. Same with Boss Rush, but that would be too far. He's holding most of the main world records in the main full game categories.
You can see just how much care Bluepoint put into the remake of this game, mainly just through the speedrunning, because most tricks from the PS2 translated over to the PS3 one, also made by Bluepoint, and then most tricks from the PS3 one, from the PS3 version, also translated over to the PS4 one, along with other more fun glitches and exploits and optimizations.
Coming up, Phalanx, a fan favorite, and I have to be quick to explain because Sean will try a very difficult and very cool strat if it works. Basically, if you hit Phalanx's sacks that make Phalanx drop down to the ground and make it possible to climb up. If you hit them with a very precise timing and very quickly, Phalanx might take a path, it's like a 50-50 chance, where, okay, I think...
that first shot is really hard.
It's very tricky. Basically, if you're lucky here, and if you are very precise, Phalanx can just drop down under the sand and you can jump off top of Phalanx. It's a strat that only Sean has been doing because it's very precise, so this will be more of a usual run. And another cool thing about this Colossus is, again, the one cycle. Since you deal extra damage on the sacks, you don't have to deal that on the sigils, so we won't actually be destroying the first 2 sigils to make it a little easier to one cycle and to avoid certain animations.
But actually, some of you casually might have actually accidentally one cycled it, because just through optimized intended strats, even with the 2 barrel rolls, because supposedly after every single sigil that's defeated, Phalanx is meant to barrel, you can still technically one cycle it, but instead we just go for the easier route. We don't destroy any sigils, no barrel roll, very easy. This is a very beginner friendly Colossi to learn, and you can knock down the time attack from the 10.5 minutes is the maximum time allowed, and you can easily get a 2-minute run out of this if you want to get into a little bit casual speedrunning.
With the world record holder even having a sub 1 minute run. Shout out to Azimuth with an insane run, also very much so worth a watch. And this was your standard Phalanx. Getting the IL strategy is very difficult, and this was as good as it gets with the regular one.
Yeah, because as we said, when you do it in time attack, you always get the same setup. Like, you always spawn at the same place. Same for aggro, the horse. But when you do it in any percent, you have to actually try and replicate the setup you have in time attack, which can be really, really tricky.
Yeah, I believe aggro walked towards you a bit too much.
Yeah, she can, but only if she wants to. That's the issue.
So
yeah, it can be unpredictable in this game sometimes.
Coming up is probably the longest horse ride, so Nico, if you have anything to read out, it would be a very good time.
Absolutely. We have a donation from Skydy River again, with another $25 saying shout out to everyone in chat, supporting these amazing runs and the fight against Alzheimer's. Let's go. And I'd like to ask you guys, Inception and the commentators, what's your favorite Colossus?
Maybe Maybe Bassaran, actually.
Oh, controversial opinion.
I don't know. It's like the strat you can actually do. Like you have so many options. You can do so many cool things. And if you take a look at the IL, the individual level, the strat hammer the Reiki holder does is just beyond insane.
Definitely. For me, it has to be Celosia. He's just my little baby. He's the first individual level I put some actual time and effort into it, and it's just a very fun, quick fight that you can just jump in and feel good about.
And for me, it's actually the Colossus coming up, Celosia. It's a very cool arena and a cool fight, casually as well as with the speedrun strats, which I actually advanced a lot myself, and I will be getting into great detail about in a bit.
What about you, Nico? From the ones that you've seen?
So from the last, so actually it was the last one I saw. It was visually spectacular for me. If you could tell me the name of it, please.
Phalanx, yeah, Phalanx.
Thank you. In fact, do we have time for one more donation? Actually,
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
awesome. Just before I read it, chat, why don't we get a $5 hype train? We are very, very near 20,000. We are just about $150 away. Why don't we do a $5 hype train to see if you want to tell us what is your favorite Colossus? That would be lovely if you guys are able to. And also we have a $50 donation from Generic Alias saying, happy to donate for a great run and a great cause. Take it away, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, now, Tic Tac, as your favorite Colossi, how
Yeah.
about you explain it?
So this is actually a Colossus that has also been updated quite a bit since the last runs at ESA or GDQ. It's basically, usually the strat would be that you climb onto some pillars, make Cenobia hit one after another while aggroing, and that takes like a bunch of time, 5 to 10 minutes or whatever. We don't do any of that. We just go directly to the last pillar. And the strat before that, what was the Kaze jump, where with a precise jump you could like grab onto a specific like architecture before the pillar. But since I was very stubborn about it, I made the super jump the new like standard. And this is actually the second glitch of the run, which is PS4 only, just because of the way certain textures work in this game. Basically, if Wander glitches into certain terrain, the game doesn't like that at all, and with certain jump timing, the game will be like, okay, that's enough, let me just get you out of here, and that can lead to Wander just gaining a bunch of height and just flying up the pillar, grabbing onto it directly. This involves a lot of button mashing like crazy, since hitting the timing that way is a lot easier than just timing it out, since any jump press can trigger it. And it's a tad inconsistent, but with certain setups it can be made more achievable.
Yeah, and definitely because we have to jump at a very specific point. It technically isn't RNG, but it's so precise that we just mash and hope. But to get rid of a lot of the difficulty, well, those who have a PS4 Pro or a PS5 switch to 30 FPS, there's less frames, and the button mashing is more consistent.
Yeah, which Sean will do, because this trick on 60 FPS is possible, but a lot more difficult timing-wise.
Yeah, almost impossible, honestly.
Yeah, and actually, this strat has been known for a while, but due to the fact that it's kinda inconsistent, it wasn't used for a long time. So after me just mashing at the pillar with a lot of button presses for quite a few hours, I was able to make it more consistent.
Oh,
and
wow.
another strat coming up, if that
Ooh,
works.
nice.
Amazing. Absolutely beautiful. I'm proud of you, Sean.
Thank you.
The next strat coming up is also a very cool one, discovered by Wacky Wolf AO. Another amazing runner from the community, where basically due to certain oversights of the developers, they added a bunch of pretty looking plateaus in the background, and you can actually jump onto them during the cutscene, and if it's done correctly, you can from there just jump directly up the plateau, and Sean did it perfectly. Here, he's up there, look at him. This is actually like something that we haven't discovered for way too long, even though it's that simple, just because of the fact that those plateaus haven't been a thing in the original. So no one even thought about it creatively enough to discover it.
Celosia was being a bit of a back of a biscuit there, just waiting without actually running towards you. But, you know, small little AI just kind of telling you, I'm going to lose a couple seconds here and there, just to keep you grounded.
Yeah, so now the rest is just getting the plant and stabbing. Fairly simple fight, and one that actually has like a very optimized individual level as well.
Which my thumbs hate you for making the super jump standard.
Yeah, I actually held the record for a while just because no one wanted to put up with it.
That was actually better Zenobia than my PB.
That was really good Zenobia.
That was as perfect as it gets.
A normal Zenobia is about 30 to 40 seconds of jumping in circles around the pillar, doing your best impression of a bullfighter as Zenobia tries to just yeet you off, and which can be quite hard because you can get very easily stun locked by Zenobia.
Yeah, but that's part of the fun, you know. Maybe I'm the only crazy one that enjoys it.
Yeah, that was the second little one.
Yeah. And now we're on to the final two Colossi. We have Argus, my worst enemy, his trick is basically very similar to Bassaran. It's kind of the same execution. It's just different Colossi. We will be getting onto one of his legs, and then during one of the animations, we will do a side jump and use the momentum to carry us forward. Tic Tac, what do we know why side jumps work and normal jumps don't? Or is it just one of these things of the game?
I mean, my best guess would just be that the side jump is short enough to not make Wander shake during it, and since he's in the air while like the leg is moving, it's like an in-between state where Wander is receiving like the upwards momentum while already letting go of the Colossus. And that's actually a funny thing about it. It's actually side jumps to the left, even though we want to go up. And the only purpose is to be short and to be like a kind of trigger to get the momentum. It's kind of counterintuitive at first when you try and learn it, but it's very consistent.
Very consistent.
If you practice it enough, Stocky. And another thing about this fight actually that also might be new compared to like older runs is that we also found a way to make this fight even more consistent while making the technique a bit more difficult. Basically, in the original game, the speedrun would look like this. You would get the launch at first, would destroy the head sigil, and then make Argus drop the weapon to get into the hand. But here's the problem, the developers are like, ha! We will make those speedrunners suffer, but by making this weak point only activatable after a certain cutscene in the intended strat. So everyone was like, oh no, we will have to do the intended strat. But people have quickly realized that actually, between the weapon and the hand sigil, there's just a tiny bit of like space that's just enough to grab on and actually stab and deal damage. So the logical thing is to actually do that first, called hand first, where we trigger an animation, jump onto the hand in a very specific way to grab on directly. Aggro being quite disruptive here, as always.
And while failing the trick can be very demoralizing, it actually is one of the least punishing tricks in the entire game. just because right behind right behind Argus, you have a big cliff that you can just jump. You can just jump off, die, and then have a very consistent setup from it. And again, all the loading and most of the death animation does not count for the IGT, so you actually don't lose that much time to missing it, even if it chips away at our souls bit by bit.
Yeah, and that's actually like one big difference with hand first, because before that you would do the hand second by dropping down onto it from up top, which if you mess it up then proceeds to lose minutes. And with the hand first, if you mess it up, you have a quick way to reset the game, which is why we prefer to do the quote-unquote more difficult trick, just because it improves consistency. And over time, people got good enough at it where it isn't even that much of a big deal, let's say. It can still fail, but Sean will surely perform as amazing as always.
That jump onto the hand is a little unintuitive, because usually what you would think you want to do is go straight for the hand and then grab on. But as I mentioned at the beginning, Wand has beautiful magnet hands, so actually you don't want to go right next to the hand. You want to just skirt. You usually want to squeeze past it, and then great launch.
Launch up and be up there. Just as easy as that.
You just want to jump past the hand, and then Wanda's magnet hands just take it away, and that is an amazing Argus.
So normally what you want is to like jump, once you stab the hand, you want to jump from the hand to the leg, but I actually messed up the jump, so I waited a bit on the ground.
Which is only like a 5 to 10 second time loss, and is honestly expected. It's just Sean being very harsh on himself with perfection. That was a perfectly amazing Argus. And yeah,
we're coming to the last Colossus actually, which is one of the farthest. So Nico, if you have some donations, it's the perfect time.
Of course, and I do. We have a $25 donation from Anonymous. No comments, but Anonymous, thank you so much for your donation. We've also got a $5 hype train, indeed. The first one is from Corliana, which says, somebody say $5 hype train. I've never played this game myself, but Argus is my favorite Colossus. Come on, chat. Let's get to 20k. We are getting very, very close, guys. And that also went to, I love this bit donation, by the way. This goes to 911 Fire Rescue All Missions, the bonus game for Baby Shark VR dancing any percent. So if you guys want to also put your bids towards that sounds like an awesome time. We've also got another $5 hype train from Captain Clucky saying $5 hype train. Choo choo. Kuramon is my favorite Colossus because it was the first time I ever beat. It's the first one I ever beat. I helped a friend beat Kurimori. I almost said a Digimon there, right? I helped a friend beat Kurimori before I got the game, which led me to fall in love with it.
Nice.
I will definitely call it Kuromon now.
Kuromon, yeah.
Is that going to be the meme now? More than likely.
You've just changed splits all across the leaderboard.
Well, you can take it for free. Why not?
So yeah,
Nice.
coming up, my absolute favorite.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Tic Tac here has a lovely, lovely relationship with Malice, to the point that we have a term in a loving term, of course, Tic Tac, which is to get tic tacked. Originally, it started with failing at Malice when you were doing really, really well. At this point, it's just failing in general. It's just getting tic tacked.
Yeah,
Yes.
because Tic Tac is the only person that has been actually soft locked, and he was actually like stuck in the ground. And you have to know that, like in this game, getting stuck in the ground like that is basically impossible. you will either clip through the ground or be like launched away, but you won't ever get stuck like that. Like it never happens.
Yeah, unless it's me on PP
Unless
pace by 2 minutes, which would have been second place at the time, and still, actually.
But yeah.
Yeah. The problem is that the developers put a bit of a mercy rule when it came to Malice for all of his aimbot shenanigans that he has with his shots. They did have a grace period in which if Wanda is hurt, he will not shot. Problem is, Tic Tac got stuck in the hurt falling animation, so he couldn't move. Malice wouldn't shoot him, so that's it.
Yeah. It's stuck. It's also the part of the game where you have to shed a tear because we will
Casually.
lose aggro for the like 1000th time. But you know.
Us speedrunners just don't care anymore.
Aggro
When it comes to doing
survives,
aggro.
okay? Don't worry about it. Aggro actually survives.
She's just taking a bath.
She's
No.
a diving horse, don't worry.
Exactly. Goodbye,
like-
aggro. Pablo.
No. Rape aggro.
Yeah.
Horsey.
Anyway, Malice coming up. A Colossus which is made to be very cinematic with laser bolts being thrown against you, or fireballs rather, that just explode and make you miserable. So the intended strategy is to go through a bunch of tunnels to find safety and slowly but surely move towards the Colossus. Speedrunners don't do that, they just use a specific path where the bolts always hit you like 5 times in a row, but never actually hit you unless you're me. So this will be a very specific setup to avoid being hit. And
Ironically, yeah. Sorry.
knowing Sean, he will probably go for an even more advanced strat where he does it completely pitless, just because he can do it, and even though it only saves 2 seconds, it always looks very cool. And yeah, Stocky, what were you about to say?
So I was say, even though it looks very, very, very flashy, honestly, the general consensus is that the speedrun strat, once you know what to do, is just easier than the casual strat, because the casual strat, there's so many things that can go wrong, and Malice can just hit you out of nowhere. While with this strat, so long as you're doing it right, which it's not that hard unless you're Tic Tac, it is much easier than the intended strategy.
Yeah, I agree it's very easy, but for some reason, whenever I'm on a good run, it never works.
Also, time is not when Malice is killed, as there is a small section of gameplay after it. So, as you can see, we're getting shot, but luckily the ground around us is really, really absorbent. So we're just ignoring every single shot, just moving on. Pit, let's go.
Also, not doing the roll on the initial one is a very great choice, I approve.
That small little pitless trick looks easy. Sean will say it's easy. It is not. Take it from an actual human being. It's not, and it's not worth it. But it's very flashy.
I agree on it being not worth it.
Because
Sean is very talented.
Because especially with Malice, you get shot once, and then while you're standing up, Malice doesn't shoot you because of the grace period, but he's not a nice person either. He will shoot you the second he can.
Also, Sean goes here for early arrow, which is another risky strat that usually is not done, but he doesn't care and just goes for it. So the idea here is that he triggers that weak point early just to be able to get here quickly, and then he will use another like little momentum trick to jump up the Colossus directly and skip all of the little animations and in between things. Just going for the plant and finishing this Colossus beautifully and perfectly.
That was
Yeah,
a
because normally you have to go from the back to the first hand to the second hand, and then you can jump on his shoulder. But we just jump from one hand to the shoulder, and that's it.
Yep, and I already can confidently tell that
Oh my
this
God.
run was better than any run I ever done.
It might be sub-hour actually.
It might be sub-hour, and that would be insane.
And sub-hour is actually better than anything anyone else ever has done besides Sean.
Regardless
Beautiful.
of which edition of the game, that was a great run. We now do get to control Big Boy Dorman, which is my boy. And after that, then we will have time, and yeah. But before that, we will get our blueberry vape. Because for those who don't know, Dorman is actually a hipster who vapes blueberry scented.
Yep, since he's a dark god and very evil.
Oh, and I'm
obviously.
flying too. Nice.
Oh, nice! You got the flying.
Amazing.
More memes. So that section is kind of... You just have to wait for the guards to go away. And it's just waiting for them to... Being like, oh, okay, that's a big guy, we should go.
Yep, since Wander released all the dark energy and all the Colossi, he is now a dark god of evil. And the people will try to revert the damage.
Are you gonna try to go for cutscene vape?
We have to do some Vape Nation, otherwise the run isn't valid.
Yep. It is actually inside of the rules. Well, it isn't, but should be. And
Just doing
start
all of that
anyway.
to save mono, and then you just spit fire onto her. And I'm flying, nice.
Ah, cutscene flying vape. Amazing.
You should really explain to me how that works.
So
And time will
should
be coming up as soon as we get into the pool, so be ready.
Full of Dorman milk.
And time.
Amazing.
What was it?
Yeah, what was the time?
So the final time was a 1:21:29.
Wow, okay, that's actually
Oh my-
really, really good.
God.
That's second place real time wise on the leaderboard.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Only like
Congratulations on the PB, I guess.
Oh, it isn't PB. This guy's way above all of us.
he's the world record holder by far.
Do you mind if
Yeah.
I do a quick few donations before you do your sign-outs?
Oh yeah, sure, go ahead.
Definitely.
Okay, so just as an FYI, we have reached $20,000. Thank you
Yay,
everybody who has
nice.
donated towards this run and to Alzheimer's Funding. There was a $100 donation from P2 is online saying, "This is a really weird way to pet the big dogs. They're okay, right?" And that went to the Super Metroid GT Classic Save the Animals. And then we also had Cheese Soda Punch, who tipped it over to 20k, saying 20,000 hype. And that went to Neo Any Percent for the all main missions. So guys, any last plugs from you all?
Well, I guess if you want to see more of Shadow of the Colossus and also like Team Eco games, so Eco and The Last Guardian, make sure to join the Discord. We try to be really active and welcoming as a community. So yeah, if you're interested, feel free to join.
Yep.
Yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah.
Check out
Thank-
Sean's stream. Check
And
out
well, I
Hockey's
guess
stream
thank
as
you
well.
for having us. I definitely had a blast. That was super
I
cool.
had so much fun.
And yeah, now that will be all from us. See you guys. Thank you again.
Thank you, guys. Right, so my hosting shift is over, so we'll be handing it over to the lovely Pi very, very shortly. Everybody, make sure that you stand up, stretch, get cozy, get comfy, get hydrated, and the next run is going to be... let me just find out what that is. It is going to be Darksiders by Henny K. So everybody, have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, and enjoy the rest of ESA Winter 21.